Hello, I'm Doyle. Welcome to Spirit Talk Show. We are reading AI-generated stories, also speaking to cool people in the studio. If you guys would like to get involved, you can go to spirittalkshow.com. There you'll find all the information about past shows, how you can listen to future shows, and you can find out all the wonderful platforms that we're on. We are doing this experiment in season 4 where we're kind of mixing people's personal life stories with the AI generated stories. And so that blended itself really well with the guest I have today. So I have a guest today, one of my personal heroes, world traveler, movie star, nose ringed. I noticed the nose ring, by the way. The fabulous, the sexy Terry Haley. Hey, Terry.
Well, hey there. I hope my nose ring isn't too loud for your listeners.
Well, if it starts clinking, we'll let you know. So you're traveling. You're not living in this country right now.
No, and I probably shouldn't call it traveling at this point, since I've chosen to live in Spain. I have traveled a bit,
Yeah.
Because my husband is addicted to it.
Okay, well,
I like travel, but he's obsessed. So we always go far and wide to see things. But yeah, we made a decision to move to Spain and live on what's called a non-lucrative visa. We retired a little bit early.
Okay.
And we're able to get a visa if you promise not to work,
Okay.
which is an easy promise to make.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they'll let you live there. Yeah.
so you could work a little bit under the table if you wanted to, right?
Oh,
I'm sure.
I work under the table, all right. Not for money.
yes, he does. Yes, he does. I'm sure. I'm not talking about personal experience. Well, maybe a little bit. So, but where did you travel? Like, because I saw you were in Morocco or somewhere in South America or something like that.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about being in where we are in southern Spain. We can, for about literally 15 euros, fly to 30 euros round trip to Morocco, to Tangier. If you don't take much luggage, it's so cheap.
Is that Ryanair or?
Yeah, right. There's about 3 or 4 airlines that do it, and then like Vueling and
Wow.
and a couple others. And but same for like Italy and Germany and like the kind of western parts of Europe and England are a little more. But I went to London, which was very expensive to be there. But the flight round trip was like, gosh, less than $150. I think.
And that is if you don't bring baggage. If you just bring in.
You gotta plan well. But people are getting good at that. Just if your bag fits under the seat, you're fine, and it can be fairly big.
Yeah, I went to Europe. When I went to Europe a few years ago, I just went with one backpack that went under the seat. So if you plan, you can do it. So you have a past you used to live in Berkeley, right?
Yeah,
and
about
you
12 years.
12 years, and you lived in Hollywood. Tell us a little bit about your life in Hollywood.
The glamorous part of my life.
Yes. I think now is the glamorous part of your life.
Yes, I would like to think that, because it was quite a while ago now. But yeah, in the 90s and early 2000s, I lived there for 15 years, from 93 to 2008. But for a big chunk of that, I was aspiring to and then working in television. I did sitcoms.
Okay.
And everybody always asks, anything I've heard of? And the only famous show I worked on was Married with Children.
Yes.
And then another one called Even Stevens that was on Disney Channel.
I remember Even Stevens, yeah.
Yeah. Then
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. It was one of Shia LaBeouf's first things he did. And it was all very fun. I didn't do it for a terribly long time. When my husband and I adopted a baby, I wanted a more stable life. So around 2004, 2005, I started teaching, and I liked that for quite a while. And then I became an editor of textbooks online and did that until I was lucky enough to be able to retire a little bit early, because we sold our house in Berkeley, and it did well enough to kind of tide us over to Social Security.
Wow. Well, if you could see this beautiful man, you'll be shocked that he's actually retired. So you said you adopted a son, and then you talked about 2004. Your son's older than 2004, isn't he?
No, he was born in 1999.
Okay, yeah. He seems like he's older.
He turns 26 in July, and will have to come up with his own medical insurance at that point.
Okay. Oh, well, I forgot. I didn't even think about that. He can be a domestic partner for someone. Well, he's not. He's not gay. But okay. Well, this is great. And why are you home right now?
Just a fun visit. I've got a lot of young relatives now. They're my grandnephews. My sister's grandchildren are 2, almost 4, and 6, and I'm quite close to them. And it's been 8 months since I've been here, so I love to come home, be the fun uncle. I took the 6-year-old to see Wicked today.
Okay. The movie.
Movie.
Okay.
Thank God we'll be the only ones in the theater, because being 6, he had to get up and run around and talk really loud. And I'm like, so now he thinks that's how you behave at a movie, because we were alone.
Not being the good uncle. Next time he goes, they're gonna have to deal with that. When you when you're heading home, I know you've.
This Saturday, I'm going to go to San Francisco on Friday and go home Saturday. It will have been 2 weeks, which is kind of short for a visit so far away, but I've decided I'll probably visit a little more. I didn't get to see enough people.
So your partner is still in Spain, or is he traveling somewhere else?
Yeah, he's still in Spain. He's going to, ironically, he's going to make a trip here in a couple of weeks. We, for logistical reasons, we didn't do it together. But
so what would you say is someone who grew up in the United States and lived in the United States? What was the most surprising thing about moving to Spain or Europe or something like that?
That's a good question, because I suppose it would have to be about the culture, but I never know exactly what to believe about a new culture, because there was a time in my long life when you could go to a new place and immediately recognize, oh, the French are like this, the Spanish are like this.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we've become really globalized with technology and entertainment, and those things that give us some sort of like local, like a regional identity, they're a little harder to spot. But I will say, what your viewers can't see is my very white beard. It's quite full. They dye their beards in Spain, everybody, and it's kind of like how women with wigs used to be. Some women, like black women especially, are very proud of like wigs that they're not trying to fool you. They're not telling you that's their hair. They're telling you that's what they're wearing, right? And that's how the men in Spain, like, they'll be my age and have these dark black, not a gray hair in them beards that. Okay, they look nice, but they're not natural, and I can't get to that point. I don't think I could ever.
So you're not going to die.
I see it, no, because of how I would look at it and go, it looks fake, but nobody there cares.
So
that's one that's a very superficial cultural difference. Other than that, I will say they are nice and relaxed. I do feel a lot. It might just be what I'm going through in my life, but I feel like less like tension when I'm there. I think our political climate, of course, right now, but for many, many years now, has been super divisive, and I don't sense that there's like whole groups of people there that hold a lot of like antipathy towards other groups because of who they vote for, and they always have more than 2 parties, so it never feels like black and white. There's like 5 or 6 to choose from, and it's still not easy. There's still like some fascism rising all over Europe,
of course,
but not in Spain, but who knows. But I generally feel like people are a little more just chill. They're more relaxed.
That's great. Yeah, I know I want to. I'll probably follow your footsteps and go travel and live in Europe after I retire. I probably got about 6-7 years, but I'm definitely going to follow that path. Or I thought about doing, the van and driving to Alaska, kind of, the van, like living that life. So so you had this idea for today, and I'm a little bit confused about it.
Yeah, I didn't explain it well, but
so let's talk about this idea you have for the story for tonight.
Yeah, well, it's a good segue from the Spain stuff, because this idea came out of my Spanish lessons. So it's not exactly what I'm going to pitch here, but where it came from is I have all these Spanish tutors online, 2 particularly that I like, and one of them, we speak Spanish the whole time, but I'm a real beginner, and I don't about every 20 or 30 seconds. If I say, me gusta comer, and then I'm like, duck. How do you say duck? I want to eat duck. And he says, pato. Oh, pato. And then because he had to say it, he writes P-A-T-O, pato. And that's a text I get. And this goes on. And the more we talk, there'll be like 20 or 30 words or phrases in Spanish that he had to give me.
Okay.
So then, because he loves ChatGPT, I'm the one that came up with it, but he was saying, let's have ChatGPT write a story. And I said, wait a minute. I took that list of just everything I couldn't think of, regardless of the context, and told ChatGPT, clean it up, make this a list of Spanish words and verbs, and now use all those words in a story. Or usually I'll do a dialogue, dialogue between 2 people, and it can be about anything, but it has to use these words and vary the conjugations of the words. And then boom, I have this whole other lesson that's really fun, and it makes it necessary to use the words, because it's hard to learn a language from a book about how to learn a language, but if you need to use it, and those are all words I wanted to say, I like eating duck, and I'll probably want to say that in a restaurant someday, so the word shows up in a story, and it gets over. And anyway, that was where it came from.
Okay.
Now, when you told about your show, I didn't quite go with the spiritual thing, although there could be a way to look at it that way.
I've kind of left the spirit part of the show. It's really just about stories, people's stories now, but yeah.
Okay. I took a very large chunk of text from my journal.
Ooh.
And my journal is,
juicy.
Like a lot of journals, my journal is something I would never show anyone. I would never show my best friend, my husband.
Not Carl, not anybody.
Especially not Carl.
Would you? Oh boy. Hey, sorry, Carl.
And he wouldn't want to read it. I'll tell you that.
Would you ever actually? Was there any situation you would show it to someone?
Well, maybe a therapist. Like if if in my journal, as I sometimes do, I outline a specific problem I'm trying to work out.
Yeah.
And I talk about my feelings in a way that, like, really made it clear, then yes, I might say, read this. But what I have found over the years is I write a lot less in my journal. This is completely unrelated to where I'm going, but I'll just tell you, I have found that for me, being the drama queen that I am, writing my journal is actually not that good for me because I tend to focus on bad things that have happened or bad things that I've felt. Oh. And by writing them down, it sort of makes them more like calcified or permanent.
Cements them.
It does.
Wow.
It makes them like stronger ideas. Because you know how when you're upset about something, your feelings are one thing, but you look for like a fact to attach it to, or an event, or a person, and you start creating a story that might be of your own invention.
So you kind of write it down. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
And this does relate. So here's what I did. I pasted this huge long journal entry into ChatGPT, and I said, look, I want you to find the 25 least commonly used words in the English language that appear in this text, and make a list. And the reason I said that is, like, the most common ones are like I, the, it, but the least commonly used words are likely to be from ideas, from, like they're likely to be important in the story. And they kind of, I'm going to read you some of them. Like, so, here's what I got. Maybe I can read them all. Stop me if it gets boring. But the list of 25 words is ruminating, codependency, intertwined, detaching, resignation, plagued, reminisce, articulate, asterisk, overthinker. Thank you, David, the first person who ever called me that, and now everyone does. Shards, thruppledom.
Thruppledom?
Thruppledom.
What's that?
Being in a thruple.
Oh, a thruple. Okay, yeah.
Monogamous, sabbatical, shrinks, broom, plagued, gullible, hurling, dysfunctionally.
Hurling like the sport in Ireland?
Or throwing up.
Okay.
Dysfunctionally, additive, erodes, intention, revisions, sabbatical. So
they are the least used.
The least commonly used. Those are all words I used in my journal entry, and the least common thing was to make sure it didn't find boring words. Wait, you used all those words in your journal entry in context, or you used them? They're all in some context. It was like a couple thousand words of my journal.
Yeah.
So I'll never tell you or anyone what the journal entry was about, but those words. ChatGPT. So then I said, ChatGPT, using these same words, write a dialogue between a therapist and client. It can be as long as you want, but it has to use all the words.
Okay.
And what I got out of it, and this is spooky. This is where your spirits may be living in ChatGPT.
Okay, yeah.
Although none of the words use detaching, the title of the story is Detaching with Love.
Okay.
Detaching with love is a concept in therapy that Carl, my husband, has been talking about a lot. It's very positive. It sounds negative, but it's a very positive way to be less codependent. How it showed up as the title of the story, I will never know because I didn't give it that. But it's been a hugely important phrase in my life and in the events that have inspired this journal entry. So what the fuck?
Well, I'm excited to see it. Please don't say that word, though. the F word is okay. Beep. So that's cool. I'm excited. Am I going to play the doctor, or am I going to play the patient? Yes, so I have to. I don't know. Anything else cool going on in your life you'd like to tell us about before we jump into this story? Well, we could jump into the story and then talk about cool stuff afterwards, right?
Yeah, we can. Maybe I'll think of something, while you're reading lines. It's also fascinating. But
okay, let me see if I can get this story up here. So, here's your story you created. Are you ready to read? Oh, I think I'm supposed to be the therapist, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it says, sipping tea, looking at his notes. You've mentioned before that you've often ruminated about the past, about decisions you've made in relationships. Can you articulate that more for me?
Yes. It's like there's this constant whirlpool in my mind. My ex, Mark, and I were so intertwined for years. I couldn't tell where I ended and he began. It's like every memory is just shards, fragmented, and I keep going over them, overthinking it. But I know it doesn't help. It just erodes my peace of mind.
It sounds like you're trying to detach from the emotional weight, but also thoughts keep plaguing you. I imagine it's hard for you to find clarity when you're stuck in those revisions, constantly replaying everything. What do you think keeps you stuck in this loop?
I think part of it is the guilt, the codependency. I was so gullible, so convinced that it was love, even when it was dysfunctional. And now I'm questioning everything. It's almost like I've been in a thrall, you know?
It's understandable. When relationships become so codependent, you lose sight of your own needs, don't you? The intention behind staying, whether it's out of love or fear, can get so twisted. And I imagine it's been difficult to detach when relationships was so intertwined with your sense of self. You mentioned before that you were trying to move on from a place of resignation, but that too seems to be holding back.
Yeah, I feel like I'm stuck in this space of just accepting things as they are without any hope of change. I think that's why I'm avoiding things now. I went on a sabbatical last year to try and figure it out, but I don't know. I've been so focused on Mark and the past, I haven't been able to really live for myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A sabbatical. What was that experience like? Did it help you with all the process of detaching?
In some ways, yes. I tried to focus on myself, but then as soon as I came back, it felt like I was hurling myself back into the same chaos. Like all the things I needed to confront were still there, waiting for me, but now they felt even heavier.
That's a good observation. Sometimes when we step away, we're faced with the stark reality that things we thought could easily leave behind are still there, lurking in the background, like a broom sweeping dust under a rug. But maybe the time you took gave you some space to recognize those things.
Yeah, and I've been thinking, maybe I'm just looking for something to fix. But maybe the fixation itself is just addictive, a way of distracting myself from facing what's really going on.
That's so common, though. But we look to fix something, and in the process, we keep avoiding what needs our true attention. Perhaps a bit of a paradox. It's, isn't it? We think detaching from people or someone will make us feel better. But what if the answer lies in letting go of what needs to fix everything?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. What if I'm not meant to be in a monogamous relationship again? Or what if I'm not meant to have any relationship at all?
That's a question only you can answer. I think sometimes the culture around us places us so many asterisks on there it is, and so many acceptable of what's acceptable or normal in our relationships, especially for people of our age. But what does your heart tell you when you strip away the fear and the judgment?
I don't know. I mean, I've been hearing a lot about this thruppledom thing lately. It sounds so freeing, I guess. But maybe I'm just looking for something to prove I'm still capable of love or being loved. Or is that just me avoiding true vulnerability?
It could be a bit of both. Maybe you're seeking validation, a sense of belonging, or a way to escape loneliness. But it sounds like you're already on the right track by being open to questioning your needs instead of just following a blueprint. But sometimes those questions themselves are enough to guide you to a deeper understanding.
I wish I could be more at peace with all this. It feels like I'm caught between wanting to be free from everything and still wanting to hold on to something, anything.
It's a difficult balance. But I've no doubt that you'll find your way, even if it takes time. And as for the sabbatical, perhaps it wasn't a failure after all. It's not about finding an answer right away. It's about giving yourself the space to grow, to reflect, to eventually carve your own path.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I think I just need to stop overthinking it all. Maybe that's the key to detaching, just letting things unfold instead of forcing them.
It's a start, my friend, a good start. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
That story
was better.
That story was sweet. Better than what are you talking about?
No, because we have to tell your tens of listeners.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Thank you.
That the story I pasted in first, in my ChatGPT, I created this word list from the journal entry. And then I told ChatGPT, and it clearly didn't listen, make a story just based on the words. But it reached right into my story and started using things that were from my actual journal entry. Like I said, 34-year relationship, like that wasn't in the vocabulary list, but that is how long my relationship has been. So it became too personal, and then there was some, and I was like, no, it's not about who would find out. It's just that's not something I ever meant to share. What was interesting, though, in that one that secretly used my real journal, it completely misunderstood detaching with love as a concept.
Okay, yeah.
Detaching with love is this therapeutic thing that's healthy for people in relationships that have some codependency, where you stop fixing your partner's problems, before they've asked you to. Like a lot of couples are in habits, or just responding to them when they want your help. Obviously, it's nice to help each other, but there's a lot of patterns that create too much codependency, but a practical need for each other. And so when you detach from somebody with love, you stop helping them, you stop being their fixer, and you're only their lover. You don't. It's like Esther Perel probably wrote about this, about you can't make your partner be your everything. They can't be your best friend and your lover and your business partner.
I see.
And your cohabitation, like the amount of decisions you have to make together, the more you can limit that and minimize it, the stronger you can make the love part of your relationship.
Okay.
Anyway, long way of saying, the second one, though, we pasted in your chat GPT, so it's never seen my journal. It just saw these words. It got it right. When it mentioned detaching with love, it didn't say codependency, but it expressed it correctly, saying it's a healthy thing to not be overly attached to another person, even if it's your lover.
So, not meaning to scare you for a second, but do I understand the first time you put your private journal text in ChatGPT? So it probably has it forever. It has it forever.
But I don't have like social security numbers. I mean, it's not interesting to anyone else.
Yeah.
It's just I consider it private because of my emotions, but the facts that are revealed are not important to anyone else.
So how would you say, and I don't want to get too deep into the of your personal stuff, how would you say, like, did it touch on an accurate feelings that you have and what's going on with your life?
It touched on what I think, my biggest problems aren't to do with other people or my husband. They're to do with how I process, difficult emotions and thoughts. And it's, to me, thoughts and feelings are kind of a chicken and an egg thing. I've argued with very smart people about this. Does the feeling create the thought, or does the thought produce the feeling? And
that's interesting.
There's just many ways to look at it, but I have really persistent thoughts that are fueled by feelings, and I don't know what triggers them first, but they're usually memories, but often they're events in the past that when I remember them, I rewrite them, and I say what I should have said, but it gets pretty out of hand. I become a person I can't be in real life. I become much louder or even violent, or they turn into fantasies that aren't usable, except for it's like I'm venting without opening my mouth, and venting inside my head, and that in itself becomes a pretty uncomfortable pressure cooker of a brain. So I've been working really hard at recognizing when a negative feeling comes. That's okay. I can, you can't really control that, but when it starts to produce a thought or a story, a narrative that you're kind of making up, I'm learning to dismiss that quicker, because that's where I feel I do a lot of damage to myself. Because if you repeat the same thought enough times, whether it's true or not, it becomes true for you, and you can get angry at a person who did you ever see the episode of Friends where Phoebe's really mad at Joey, and or Ross or Joey, and she doesn't know why? Yeah. And then she finally says, well, because when we were sitting on that ice lake, and then you removed your energy mask, and she's had this science fiction dream about him, and didn't realize it wasn't real, that she had created the story.
It's kind of like
and
the
she
wife.
Spent the whole week being mad.
It's like the wife waking up and being mad because you were mean in a dream, right? I mean, it's actually happened to me with my ex-wife, where she's being upset in the morning, and I'm like,
the feeling is real.
What's happening? What's going on with you right now? And she's just mad about something in a dream that I did. Yeah. It's like, how? Yeah. But I mean, that's interesting. You said about the feelings. What came first? The feelings. I mean, our feelings, are they just chemicals in our brain, or are the feelings, our thoughts, actually something physical, some changing chemicals?
Yeah. I kind of think of them as I think when I was about 4 years old, that Geyser National Park near in somewhere in North Dakota or something.
Yellowstone,
Yellowstone, yeah. You could walk down this long wooden pathway like a dock, but there were these pots, these things on the other side, these geysers that could go off, these
Oh,
really
I see, yeah.
terrifying to a kid. And I think of feelings as like you're walking along and then some little thing, somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're really mad and it pushes you off the dock and you fall into an emotion that you can't get out of. Because that emotion is attached to many other things that have happened to you. Not just people who have cut you off, but any injustice that's happened to you.
Yeah.
Like they're all waiting there in your memories for that feeling to light them up. And that's how I think some other people heal much faster, or the past is the past and they know it happened, but they don't. And some people actually forget a lot of the negative parts of the past. And I seem to remember the upsetting parts more than I remember the happy parts.
Okay. Wow, cool. Well, so I took your words here and I had it create something else using your words.
Oh, no.
So what we're going to do, if you're into it, is this is a poem. I said, now write a poem, right, like using those words. So we're going to read chapter by, like you read the first chapter, I read the second one, okay?
Okay.
So do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Sure. We call them verses in the United States.
What did I call them?
Chapters.
Chapters? Okay. I'm a foreigner. I couldn't remember the word. I couldn't remember. Poem chapters. I almost said poem chapters.
Trousers.
Trousers. Garage. Okay.
Okay. I'll start then?
Yeah, go ahead and start.
Okay. Are we going for any kind of style of this poem?
Oh, I think you can do anything you want. I want you to do a monologue here in a little bit. Shakespearean monologue. Okay.
Detaching from the past, I trace the shards of us, fractured pieces that once fit together, held in place by an invisible thread, intertwined by years of shared air, shared dreams.
But now, the weight of our memories plagues me. But take a break. We'll come back after this. SpiritTalkShow.com. Bedtime stories for grown-ups. Come back after this. And I got to realize how to stop it.